So I went out to Cedar Lakes Woods and Gardens the other day. My boss recommended it to me after he had gone with his family, and I saw some photos and I was really into what I saw with his stuff, and so I knew that I really wanted to bring a film camera and see what it was like for myself, not to mention that I wanted to just go because it looks so pretty. Williston is only about 30 minutes from me here in Gainesville, Florida, so it really is not that bad of a drive, especially if it's a day that I have off. It's super close. A little bit about the park. It was founded by Dr. Raymond Weber, and it opened to the public in January 2014, but the creation of the park actually started about 30 years ago. Basically, the guy found this abandoned quarry that had been abandoned for 100 years or so, and decided that he wanted to turn it into sort of like a fishing spot just for himself. But then in that process of turning it into that, he discovered a love of gardening and started making all these pathways and putting in tons of trees and fake islands and all sorts of stuff, and made it this super elaborate botanical garden. And so he eventually opened it up to the public and created a nonprofit in order to run it, and it's been open, like I said, since 2014. He also donated the surrounding woodlands to Conservation Florida to help protect them for the years to come, so that nothing really gets built up around it. It is basically just an all protected area. He actually still lives on the property, and later on you'll see you walk, like the path of the garden goes through his back porch, and it's really something. Today I'm going to be shooting with this Canon Rebel 2000. I picked it up recently from a friend who's a photographer as well. Basically brand new in the box. I have on it a 50mm lens, the nifty 51.8. But I actually really love this camera. I have a bunch of older cameras like the Canon 81 and a bunch of Minoltas and stuff like that. But in terms of just easy and simplicity, this thing rules. Has a bunch of modern features that help you get the right exposures and all that stuff. Plus, just loading film into this thing is a breeze. Today, I'm going to be using Kodak Portra 400. This is one of my favorite films to use. So, let's load up the film. Pull out the lead, and then you just sort of tuck it in, make sure it's all good, and then close it up, and you'll listen. And we're ready to go. 36 exposures. I hope we can get some cool stuff today. So I ended up driving down early in order to beat the heat. I wasn't sure if this would be a park that was really exposed to the elements, and in Florida, it can get really hot really fast, even in April. The entry itself actually reminded me of a state park with the gates, and then you get to the open area, and it's not particularly garden, but it is very nice and pretty big. One of the other quarries you can still see there, and you drive right by it. After gaining entry, the first exhibit that you see before you get into the main park is a little collection of tortoises, pretty big tortoises. They were mostly just trying to stay out of the sun while I was there, but they were still really cool to look at, and it was a really cool way to begin the day. So then you walk down a bit, there's a couple signs that say, hey, the guided path is this way, but you don't actually have to obey them. You can really just take the park in any way you want to, but because it was my first time, I decided that I should probably do what the signs say, just because I wanted to see what the guided experience would be like. As you step down the stairs, it really opens up for the first time, and you can see the full garden with the lakes and the trees and the islands, and it really is it's pretty breathtaking, especially for something like that in Florida, where there is basically no elevation change. It's all fucking flat. To have this huge dip down and be at the top of something is very cool. The park was absolutely so beautiful and had looked just like the pictures my boss had shown me. There were about 1 million caterpillars hanging out all over the guardrails, and they were very hairy. And it was really cool. They were all over the place, which was very fun until I almost fell, or I tripped, and I almost fell and squashed an entire generation of them with my hand. Luckily, I was able to avoid it and just landed on my teeth instead. This picture was a little hard to get just because the caterpillars are so small and I didn't bring a proper lens for that, but I really like how soft they look. You can notice the focus is maybe a little off, but I still like this picture a lot. As you walk further along, you get to one of the main fountains, and truly as you walk along, the light was hitting it in such a way that it created this absolutely beautiful rainbow. And this is my favorite picture of the day. When I took this picture, I was hoping to God that this came out. This was almost the entire point of this roll to me as soon as I found this fountain, and it really did turn out. The way the rainbow is captured, as well as the bridge in the foreground, really creates a sense of depth to the photo that I really like. I sent it to some friends almost immediately, and they were all in agreement that it looks like a postcard, which is one of the highest compliments I think that you can get. And I just absolutely love this photo. So as you go through the back of the park, it basically just loops around the entire lake. So even though you were at the very back of the park, you still have basically the other half to go. And so tucked at the very back was this really cool koi pond that I thought for a second how the koi didn't go into the main lake because it seemed connected, but whatever, they were just hanging out. So this picture is actually the founder's house. Like I mentioned earlier, part of the path goes through his back porch. And even though we all had explicit permission, including signs that were all posted about, I felt really weird being there. So I just kind of hurried through. So there were also several man-made waterfalls throughout the park. And even though they are man-made, they were very pretty. And honestly, you take what you can get in Florida. You could even walk behind one of them. And before you ask, yes, I did check to see if there was a hidden cave, and unfortunately, no, there wasn't. There was these two swan living on one of the islands at the bottom of the quarry, and as the sign said, they were clearly in nesting and in love, and so I gave them plenty of space, and that definitely wasn't because I'm scared of birds or anything. This is another personal favorite photograph of the day. I really like how the railing both divides the photo and brings your eye back to the main structure. It's both pleasing and yet it breaks up the photo in a very cool way. After walking the full length of the garden, going down to all the islands, I ended up going back up to the main area and saw that there was actually a side garden that you could get to that had a ton of really cool flowers that were seasonal, as well as a bunch of really old oak trees. And that's where I got these photos. At the end of that garden, there was another look into another quarry, and these turtles were just vibing, and I had to capture it. I don't love this photo, but the vibes were just too good. I love when turtles do that thing where they poke their feet out. I was truly jealous, but not as jealous of this cat who is clearly the night guard of this place and looks like he was just having a blast. After leaving the main garden and getting back in my car, I ended up stopping by the original front quarry that we drove by earlier because I noticed this tree sitting out in the middle of the lake and I needed to get a photo of it. And also just, I really like how natural the area looked compared to the very curated look of the garden. I had an absolutely great time going here, and I'm very happy that my boss gave me this recommendation. I really love how a lot of the photos turned out. Although not all of them are portfolio best, there are definitely a few bangers in there. The park itself just makes taking photos so easy. It's so picturesque and specifically curated to give good views that it really did just make taking photos a breeze. I'm happy I shot this trip on Portrait 400, which is one of my favorite films, even though I don't have a ton of experience with a lot of film stocks, just because I really like how the colors came through. If I had shot it on something like gold, it would have given it more of that warm look, and I just really like the depth of colors that were available in the park. So I'll be posting more videos like this. I've been doing a lot of traveling around on my days off to different state parks around me, as well as abandoned buildings. So keep a lookout for those. I'm not sure how regular they will be, but as I have stuff to shoot, I will be posting and making videos for it. And thanks for watching.